round robin. Cool.
Hey guys, Oliver, Chris, and Sev here. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
G'day.
But we'll probably start off with you, Sev. Obviously, you and I have known each other for quite a long time, and I've sort of watched your journey from, I guess, when we first bumped into each other in, I guess, marketing circles. But I guess what I've been probably most interested in recently is your transition from, being a school teacher to being a TikTok influencer, now assisting businesses, with your agency, and also on the other part being a wedding photographer, which obviously don't fit into the same camps, and really how that that transition that came about. What was the turning point that you decide, no, I don't want to be a school teacher anymore?
I think it was never really intended. It was never really a plan. It just kind of happened. And when I thought, well, I don't have to study anymore. I don't have to look for a job anymore. I'm permanent in my role in a government job. What else could I do? I just finished footy, so I wasn't committing to anything on the weekends. So I thought, okay, let's start something else. And by then I was really more into my photography. And I was touring people around Perth when Instagram was really heavy on the hashtag art of visuals, and everyone wanted to be featured on the latest Instagram page. And I would show people the best spots in Perth to, take photos of. And then around the same time, when I was a school teacher, the kids got me into TikTok. And then what happened there was I thought, okay, well, I'll document that as part of my tours. And I got people's attention. And because I was taking portraits of people around the city at the time, I fell into wedding photography. And I fell into it because I never thought I wanted to ever do it. And I thought I'd give it a go, $250 for a second shooter gig with no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I really liked it. And I thought, wow, this is really fun. A lot of people say, oh, you got into wedding photography because of the money. The money's great, but I genuinely just wanted to take a lot of portraits. And it was like free reign all day. And I got paid for it. I was like, this is great.
Happy days.
And happy days. Then I started to document that. I started to document it originally in Facebook groups, and that actually performed really well, organically, strategically, because I was doing something no other photographer was doing in the wedding space. And hundreds of wedding photographers in Perth were doing all the same thing. And I've always been that disruptor that did something different. And at the same time, whilst I was growing my personal brand on TikTok, because I simply just wanted to have an account so the kids can laugh at my antics from school.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know? I mentioned a little bit of what I do on weekends other than school teaching, 2 bookings 2 days later as a wedding photographer. So I doubled down on that because, if it works, let's see what happens next. Fast forward 6 months later, I'm booked out for 2 years as a sales pipeline.
Wow.
And that was all majority organically through TikTok. About 75% of it was from TikTok, and the other 25 or maybe 20%, if you count word of mouth, was Facebook groups. Right. And I had this thing. I was like, if I'm working 200 odd days a year, give or take, with marking and planning for teaching, and I'm getting paid this much money, which was $75,000 at the time, as a school salary that I'd study for 4 years, but I do my own thing and I only work 60 days a year with 30 days of weddings and 30 days of editing.
Yep.
And the other odd, however many 300 days, I'm just marketing myself and making the content about the business. I'm like, that'd be actually more fun. Hence why I did it. Hence why I booked out for 2 years, and hence why I don't have to teach anymore and make double and some of my former salary that I studied for 4 years. So that was my big transition and realization going, I have bought my time back, and the time that I spend making the money that has helped me buy my time back in that way, I'm enjoying anyway. So it feels like 100% of my time is bought back. And that was an amazing, kind of the last 3 years as that has happened.
and you're having fun by the sounds of things. So quantify that for us. You went from a standing start of obviously doing no weddings, and you're saying you booked up every weekend. Is that 2 a weekend, or is that 4? How many weddings a weekend are you doing?
At the peak, I was doing about 35 weddings a year, and regrettably, I was doing a couple every weekend in some peak parts of the year of wedding season. During winter, it's a lot less, and during the real hot months of summer, there's a lot less. So those 35 weeks or 35 weddings were scattered across the 2 main seasons of autumn and spring.
Yep.
And at the peak, I was doing, sometimes I did 3 weddings in a week, it actually does give you a bit of a burnout, especially with the editing backlog. But fast forward to now with things like AI editing and all these things out there, the process is a lot simpler anyway. But I've also scaled my per wedding number, because they're not just hiring me as a wedding photographer, they're hiring me as Sev, the TikToker. So it's like a celebrity hire almost locally. And that's what's helped me actually bring back the amount of weddings I have to do. Used to be 35. Last year I did 15 and made more money than I did the 35.
Wow.
And then this year I'm only doing about 12. And next year I'm only aiming to do about 5 per year, because everybody wants to know what I've done over the last 3 years and pay me to teach them that. They say that those who don't do, they teach. But I have done it so well that I naturally teach others,
Yep. I love it. So we're very Oliver heavy on this call. I know we've got 50% of the speakers are Oliver, so I'm going to refer to Ollie Peterson as Ollie, if that's okay, and Oliver here is Oliver. But Ollie, you're obviously a very well-known radio personality here in Perth. So how have you gone about, I guess, your brand and establishing that, and kind of what strategies have played a pivotal role for you in your success?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's funny, isn't it, that you talk about yourself as a bit of a brand, sort of from where I've come from as a journalist background, and it was my old boss here actually at 6PR. I've been here 7 years now, and I think it was about 6 odd years ago. He actually said it to me. He goes, "You need to think about this as your brand," and it was actually something as well. At first, I went, "Hold on a minute, brand. What's this kind of stuff as everything's evolving?" So, I think it's important in my space. Obviously, where we are broadcasting, it's talkback radio, so it's opinion driven. You want the phone lines to react. You want people to write emails and text messages. We are. I think talkback's a really powerful medium because it's the original social media, right? This is how you had the opportunity to be able to have your say, to vent your spleen, to add your weight to the conversation and say, "I agree with you, I couldn't disagree with you more," and everybody's entitled to an opinion. So for me, around that, integrity is really important in my brand, because I need to be truthful in what I'm saying and what I believe in, but I also then need to make sure that if I don't know the answers to something, I don't know everything, of course. People might think I do, or I might give the impression I do, but because we have a platform where we're engaging with thousands and thousands of people every single minute, if you actually do not know what you're talking about, or you sort of fluff your way through, you lie your way through that, your brand's gone. You're attacked. You're finished. You're done. So I think it's a really interesting space that I'm in at the moment, because obviously I come from a younger background in terms of the talkback radio medium. I'm very conscious of my social media profiles, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm somebody, Twitter, now X. I'm somebody who uses all of those platforms regularly, but it's a funny way to try and now mold the traditional mediums of radio, television, and a little bit there, or online space in terms of writing for some of our mastheads, versus what you do on social media. And I think at the moment, our two worlds obviously need to coexist. They're more powerful in that ecosystem because people aren't sitting down and listening to the 3 hours of my program every single day. Even a friend said to me a couple of days ago, I heard about that story I broke in terms of Qantas moving to the other side of the airport via my personal Instagram page. So, having an avenue and having the different platforms all working together in the same direction is really important. And I think that's something not only as a business from our radio network that needs to, make sure that we're swimming in that direction, but as you say, as my personal brand as well, that I can find a way to make those two aspects of my career go in the same direction.
Yeah.
Do you think it's, I guess, building your personal brand, Ollie, do you think it's helped propel you in your career, from from where you are now and where you perhaps see yourself in the future?
Yeah.
And have you done that strategically, or did you do that in mind, or do you think that's just a byproduct of, being out there?
I think it is because talkback radio is such a personal medium, and I'm spending 3 hours every day with, for some people, I'm their best friend, to be honest. I've never met them, but I'm their best friend. So talking about the news of the day is, which is what is our bread and butter, but talking about myself and starting for people to understand where I come from, what I'm going through. And in that example, Oliver, I've shared a lot more recently about my son's vision issues that he has, and he's probably blind in his left eye. And the engagement and the feedback I had from my listeners about that was really touching. And I wasn't looking for sympathy. I wasn't looking for engagement. I just wanted to share with my audience that, hey, we're all going through some stuff. This is what I've been going through for a couple of years. And I know that, for people who can't see or have vision issues, I'm on your team. I'm fighting for you. And the engagement I got out of that by sharing something a little more personal than just giving my opinion on, the location of a hospital in Perth or the fact that the Voice referendum didn't succeed on Saturday night. People like to know their presenters. They like to know my personal side as well. So really it's been organic for me. There hasn't really been much of a strategy that I've designed behind that, but even just, hearing the first couple of minutes of what Sevs had to say here, I think I need to do a bit of work myself and figure these sorts of things out.
We can hook you guys up after.
I guess this one's for you, Sev. I guess, how do you, obviously as you've, you've risen very quickly. You've got 1.6 million followers on TikTok, over 40 million likes. You obviously jumped on the TikTok thing quickly. And, your content obviously resonated with people and you blew up, and then you started getting brand sponsorships and deals, Pentanet, KFC, etc. And so how, I guess, have you managed to sort of traverse that line between staying authentic to Sevs brand whilst not being considered a sort of corporate sellout, you know what I mean? Staying authentic, because it surely must be hard, right? You've got, people throwing money at you, but, you've got to stay loyal to your audience, I assume. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, great question, Ollie. Originally, I made some rules for doing this as brands started hitting me up. I still abide by those rules. There are some rules that kind of became a little bit more moderated and revisited. The keyword is moderation. So I've always wanted to have my channel in a educational point of view. That's why I have the hashtag Sevs point of view. And it's actually a trademark. I've trademarked it and everything. And the point of view that I make is my view. And some brands will be keen to collaborate, hoping that my point of view will be positive. So it's up to them to understand that I'm going to give them a good review or give them a good point of view. And if it doesn't, then, well, thanks for coming and see you later. But like with Red Rooster, it was. And
apologies, mate. Oops. They don't sell chicken, Red Rooster.
There was also Twisties. There was also Nando's, McDonald's, and a few others that I no longer consume at all. And I'd say I'd have like a Macca's burger every maybe couple months now, if I'm in a rush or I've just left it too late and I'm really hungry. But the point that I was going towards with still collaborating with those brands initially was kids are still going to eat them. My message is do it in moderation, right? Mm-hmm. And then that's where I stood. But now I wouldn't. Like McDonald's hit me up just yesterday saying, can you come to the McHappy Day next month? And I just left them on red. I was like, no, it's not my thing anymore. I'm done. And
it's really cool that you can leave Macca's unread. I like that. That's when you made it, right?
It wasn't really the Macca's like national brand. It was like one of the local stores that have a Instagram account. Whereas before I was like, awesome, cool. This would be a good opportunity. I can get behind the store, make some content. It'd be good for my brand. I'll get lots of views. But now it's not about views. It's about integrity. And my integrity lies with what are the kids eating and are they pushing towards a healthy lifestyle? And with brands like McDonald's, yes, even with moderation, there are far better alternatives out there. So that's where I stand with that consumption of what kids consume. My podcast is sponsored by an alcoholic brand, a local brewery called Bright Tank Brewery. So, and I'm not pushing that on TikTok because of against terms and conditions to directly push an alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
But at the brewery, you can do that. And that's where I help them out. And we're targeting adults who can make decisions as adults.
Yeah.
So there is still a bit of a fine line, and people may say that I'm, coming up with all these excuses just so I can get land the next deal. But I've really started to make a more conscious effort going, would I want my personal audience to, consume this all the time? And the answer is no. And I'm very strongly opposed to any gambling, but I do love poker. So I gamble against somebody else directly, not something that's, not like sports bet or something like that. Any animal racing, I got asked to MC a Melbourne Cup event next month. Said flat no, like just straight up no. And there was money on the table. And so that's now becoming a real forefront of my brand. And like, even if someone does say that I'm a sellout, then so be it. Like that's their opinion. But of my last few collaborations, like with Forest Chase recently, that's a shopping center that I go to. There's things there that I frequent, and I do interviews past Murray Street all the time. So that was the perfect collaboration. Yeah. I use Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe Photoshop all the time. So the Adobe collaboration was amazing. And then with the Sony brand, I use the cameras every day. Right now, I'm using the camera to record it. And of course, that's a collaboration. So when I remember like a few months ago, I was in Queensland. I was like, no more collaborations. I am just focusing on myself and my brand only. I had literally 4 collaborations land in my email box that same week. 3 of them were on par with what I do already. So they were easy. And then there was one that I was just like, no good. So
yeah, cool. Ollie, I've always wondered when people, and so Ollie, to jump in, the balance between having a radio personality or a personality who's well known and that public life, so public and private life. How do you balance that? And any advice that you would give to anyone who's, I guess, in the entertainment industry? How do you go about that? Because obviously it's important to have your private life too, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm probably pretty open book with most of my stuff, and maybe that's because I'm a bit boring, to be honest, Chris. Really, but I think I think everyone's you look at our medium, and traditionally speaking, I suppose a lot of our my colleagues are a little bit older, and they probably haven't lived through the social media revolution. But I think it's about really trying to build that. Yeah, as you said before, build that brand, and what's resonating with the audience is the fact that they know you're the guy who is their friend. You're also sharing bits and pieces of your life. So, look, I'm pretty open book with it in terms of my approach has always been, Instagram is open until you start abusing me, and then you can bugger off.
Yeah.
On something like Facebook, I just keep a work Facebook page, and I actually keep my personal Facebook page the private. And I've actually sort of more or less stopped engaging in that. And then, in more recent times, actually, when I look at, say Twitter or X, I've probably pulled back a little bit on what I've been commenting on publicly because, hey, I've got a microphone here where I do that every day. And I don't know about Twitter and X anymore. I don't know where that's going. I think it's a really different platform. But, finding obviously between my private life and my children's lives, I share a bit about their lives. But, I stop it off, for example, I keep, some of my private life private, i.e. where I live, where my children go to school. People don't need to know that. They just need to know I'm a dad of 2 young kids and I love them.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Oh, it's very obvious you love them. You love railways. That's what all the railways.
If there's a train line, we'll find it.
Yeah, is the next railway. I guess, Sev, correct me if I'm wrong, because I got obviously Red Rooster wrong, but you recently got to meet Gary Vaynerchuk in Melbourne, I'm pretty sure. You went over there and met up with him.
Yeah.
What was that like, and what did you take away from it? Is he as magical as we all sort of see him on social media?
The one thing that I was, when I went over there to meet him, being invited by him first and foremost was really cool. I knew he was coming, but I was like, I've met his whole team in New York earlier this year, and I've been watching him for a long time. So there's nothing really new that I could get out from him by just seeing him in person. But after he invited me, I thought, you know what, it'd be a good opportunity, mingle with some people in the industry. And yeah, the event itself, I could have fast forwarded to just hearing him talk and just having that intimate meeting with him and that small room that we were in. And the one question I got to ask him about pivoting was incredible. And it was more of a validation of what I was thinking anyway. Definitely worth it. And the one thing that I learned from hanging out with him was he's definitely who I thought he was. Right. And he speaks his truth, and he speaks only what he knows. And there's no hidden agendas at all. He just does what he does. And that was all I needed to see.
So he's 100% authentic. He is as we see him online. It's not a facade. It's not a sort of edited, version of. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because it's you see some of these people, Grant Cardone, we obviously follow Gary Vaynerchuk, and his just work ethic and the volume of content he puts out is just mind-boggling. Phenomenal. He's just dominating every single social media channel. So, you do often wonder if it is all real. Obviously, you're on TikTok. That's obviously your biggest following. You've done reasonably well on Instagram and LinkedIn. I've seen you sort of being more proactive on LinkedIn a lot more recently, Sev. And you're sort of joining the corporate side a bit more. But who do you think is going to come out on top? If we're sat here in 10 years' time, which social media channel do you think is going to be the victor?
I would say LinkedIn has been the oldest. LinkedIn is the oldest and is now starting to pop a little bit more with the younger crowd. And very slowly, the clues are in what the Americans are doing. And I'm seeing a lot more video content on LinkedIn in the American side. And I think once Australia starts to finally catch on with it and interact with it, because that younger audience is jumping into LinkedIn and they're used to consuming in video format, I think LinkedIn has got another 10-year big lifespan ahead of them and could be a potential winner, especially when it comes into the workforce, because less and less kids want to put out any content that may jeopardize their future careers. So why not put out their best content that makes them look even better on something like LinkedIn? That, and also YouTube, because their terms and conditions have really, really taken a big stranglehold on what you can and can't say on social media, but it's still the biggest platform. It's owned by Google, and they've got unlimited money to compete with the likes of TikTok and Meta. So, I think LinkedIn and YouTube are the big ones to look out for in 10 years' time.
Yeah. Ollie, you got any questions that you want to? I can see you might say anything you want to ask Sev on his piece.
Yeah, I think
different worlds, obviously.
No, but I think that's really interesting as well, because the video content obviously that Sev produces through TikTok, and that's what we all know TikTok, right, as the medium for video content. But LinkedIn at the moment, I scroll through LinkedIn sometimes and look, why is this person sharing that? What they've done in their workplace in regards to their new HR policy, that's boring. Let's be blunt about it. So I agree with Sev in that regard, that there's so many opportunities there. Do you think though, like Sev, LinkedIn's ready to take a bit more video content and that's the way it will just take off?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also who you're targeting, because social media isn't social media anymore. It's network media. It's a tool to advertise your personal brand or your business towards the people that you're trying to sell to. So if you're looking at some HR how-to guide, but your whole network on LinkedIn doesn't care at all about that, then your LinkedIn strategy is off, right? Sure, LinkedIn networking with different people who may know someone that may be interested in that, but essentially that's not the case. So I think yeah, the videos will come in, but I think there may be still a little bit of time to learn about the approach someone needs to take on LinkedIn to be able to succeed on there, to attract the right people they're trying to attract.
Ollie, a question for you, if I may. So, like, collaborations and partnerships are obviously very important in brand, and obviously you speak to a lot of people. You've got advertisers on the radio shows, etc. Have you got any real memorable partnerships or collaborations you've had during your career? And can you tell us a bit about some of those?
Yeah, so like, through the radio, we have a great competition every year called Word on the Street. So you're our eyes and ears around town. And if you witness some breaking news, if you've heard a rumor, if you've heard a whisper, you can tell me that and you get a chance to win $20,000. This year we're doing it with the Perth Window and Door Replacement Company. The last couple of years we did it with Automasters. And we had a great opportunity with Automasters to be able to really localize that for them as well by saying, there's Chris in West Leederville, your closest Automasters is in West Perth. Give that address, give that, really personalized opportunity for where that person lives to be able to brand and, cross collaborate with that. And obviously on the radio. In terms of then, personal brands and sponsorships, there's always things sort of being thrown to us, via the radio station in terms of whether it's car companies or home builders. You have to look at that, whether it's your personal brand, it's obviously the radio station. There's a commercial code of agreement, obviously, as well, that you have to declare anything, any personal sponsorships you might have where you earn over $25,000 a year. And you have to be displayed on your website, on your company's website. So, look, there's obviously in this new world, there's more and more opportunities between your personal brand, your radio station's objectives, and their advertisers. But you can pursue it. There is obviously a line between the two, and then it's just making sure that when you're going on air, if you were to say have that personal connection with, I don't know, an airline, that you declare it. Hey, before I talk about Virgin Australia, I just want to let you know I am an ambassador for that airline, so everything's above board. It's an interesting world. Even one of my colleagues on our sister station 3AW, Jackie Felgate, she's got a huge social media presence, and she's got a lot of collaborations that she declares commercially because she obviously is an ambassador for particular brands. So she has to navigate that as she's talking on 3AW in Melbourne.
Sev, one thing I guess I've struggled with myself personally, and I see you create this content when it appears to be very ad lib, organic, and you just seem to sort of go out, pull out the red mic and start talking to people. Is that how it is, or is it, a little bit more planned and thought out than that, or is it literally as ad hoc as it looked, and it's just simply you've got heaps of confidence and you don't mind doing it, you're just used to it?
Yeah, it's a time and place thing. A lot of the time, the people that I interview are the ones that approach me to take a photo, and then I say, "Great, let's take a photo, but can I have an interview?" And they always say yes, and then we just go for it. And I've got a list of questions on me at all times of what I'm currently thinking of, and I reckon will pop. But then, location-wise for the Royal Show, I walked in within 5 seconds. I had about 50 kids line up to want to take a photo, and then I just blitzed them all with an interview. So that was cool. But at an event or a specific kind of mission that I'm on where I have to get someone that is over 18 for a collaboration, it's a lot harder because, people don't want to get bothered by someone who wants to have a chat. They don't want to have that interaction. They'd rather be on social media having that interaction, which is what I'm making the content for, so they can watch it. But it's easy when the fans want to interact, but it's so hard when I have to go out and and fetch specific people to ask specific questions for a specific campaign or brand.
Yeah. You haven't come across, obviously, you know, we know you're a prolific meat eater. Have you had any run-ins with the vegan activist?
Oh, Tash Peterson? Yeah, we've spoken a couple of times. The most recent time was like last year. It was over Instagram, and I kind of like left it. Like, it was all good with her. Like, she's doing her thing, and I just said that, yeah, the way that you're going your hardcore activism mode isn't really it. But that was just all I had to say. And she said in response, it's the only way to get attention. I'm like, well, there's always another way, and I'm proof of that. You know, you don't have to come in an educative, understanding, empathetic way, and you can have a similar effect. So, yeah, I've had a run in with her, not in person, and in person, I probably wouldn't do anything out of the norm that would create shock value or eat chicken in front of her. That's like the old me, you know. I just like have a genuine conversation.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that with the vegan activists, right? Because about 5 or 6 years ago, I took them on with something I sort of escapes me here on air. Did a show at the Cannington shopping centre, and about half a dozen of the vegan activists turned up with, you know, a good old school protest and, you know, Ollie's a murderer, Ollie's this, that. And it was actually, we had to, you know, throw to a break and get security. And then they flooded my social medias for a while. And I just, my son's now 5, and we're going on a lot of the photos of my young fella saying, you know, your father's a murderer, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And that was obviously pretty extreme. Yeah. Took to the airwaves the next day and, you know, called out their poor behaviour, really. And it stopped. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a friend of the vegan activist side.
And she grabs headlines, right? I mean, you know, like, love her or hate her. I mean, you know, if her purpose is getting attention and getting, you know, featured in mainstream media, you know, I've seen her in 9 years, 7 years. I've seen her obviously in West Australia. She just had to run with the restaurant owner, and they had a bit of a kerfuffle. But you've got to admire her conviction, her passion, you know, whether you agree with her or you don't.
Exactly.
How do you manage that? Because you must get quite a lot of, and I'll call them haters for a better term, but does that get easier to manage as you sort of get more into?
Does it affect you emotionally, personally? Because I mean, if I was getting that sort of hate, I would, you know, I'd be pretty upset. I'd be pretty down.
Oh, early days it does, like, absolutely. But I mean, it's kind of the rules of threes, isn't it? Like, a third of people love you, a third of people can't stand you, and a third of people probably couldn't care less about you. So, you know, we're all obviously in mediums now where we've got to grow a thick skin, and you just cop it, don't you? You just don't think about it twice. And I think the big test in that too, like, it's really easy for somebody to type something and, you know, give you a bit of feedback about what they think about you. But can you say it face to face? You know, can you come up to me and say, this is what I really think about you? That's the test. I personally think that's still the test of somebody's character. If they want to hide behind anonymity online or in a comment section, mate, just come up and say it to me, and let's talk it out. And you're not always going to agree with me, but yeah, it's something that, you know, I choose to obviously avoid engaging with people who really obviously don't like me, or the block function on social media has been pretty good, because why put up with it?
Yeah. Do you get much hate, Sev? Do you get a bit of crap?
Every now and then. Used to be more before, but now there's not that much, simply because I avoid the touchy topics. Being a Russian myself, I filtered out a couple of words early February last year, immediately, as soon as the conflict started to happen. And yeah, people leave me alone. The current world politics and things that are happening, I know they're there. I know they exist, and 99% of them aren't great. But I avoid discussing them in a social forum, because most people are, they're naive. They're not informed properly to have a proper discussion. And because I've got that barrier, there's no hate. There's no ammo for me to receive any hate in my videos. Kids try it. They asked me on live stream, Sev, what do you reckon of this and this? Who would you choose? Pick one. And I'm like, what do you mean? Why do I have to choose? I live in Australia. I'm stoked to be here. I'm going to the beach tonight. What are you doing? Oh, you're on the internet asking for people to give you their opinion just so you can have a loaded approach back at them. No. I don't play that game. And for the last 2-3 years, it's been great.
That's brilliant.
We touched on AI, or you touched on AI slightly at the beginning, and I understand obviously you're becoming a software company of somewhat. So if you're developing a software app and has AI built into it, do you want to talk, I guess, the reason you're making that and what's it going to do for the people that you believe are going to purchase it?
Yeah, thanks for the segue there. So it's called SS Live, stands for Severa System Live. Severa is the kind of creative company behind it. We're essentially a problem-solving kind of company, less of an agency. Just we solve your problems. You need more Google reviews. We give you strategic ideas. You need more content created. We teach you how to generate those things. When AI first came out, I was running workshops prior and would take between 1 to 3 hours to teach an internal team or a brand or even an agency internal marketing team how to generate better content for short form media, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Shorts. When AI came out, I instantly dove into prompt engineering and discovered really easy prompts that I built myself for that process to become quicker. I implemented that into my workshops, and my first workshop when I did that, I still saw people scratching heads. Right. And I thought, okay, can we make this even easier? And we started to stack the prompts together. And then that was the foundations of the app. And then what the app does now is it has a feature where you can literally put your website of your business, brand, company, whatever.
Yep.
Analyzes everything on the website. So this is where keywords and SEO and that stuff is important anyway. Or you can put your brand guidelines, or you can go on a detailed rant about what you do. Then it comes up with 4 different pillars: what problem you solve, why you solve it, what your target audience is, and your horizon audience. Then from there, you can pick and choose whichever one you want and go, I want ideas about that specifically, and it generates you 10 ideas catered directly to your brand based on the research it's done about your website. And then from there, you can go from, I want a simple structured dot points, or I want a full script because I'm going to bring some talent in and create the video. We've created hundreds of videos ideas within less than an hour, which would take a creative team normally weeks. And it's had phenomenal results already. So I'm excited about it because I haven't seen anything like this before.
Is it going to be public then? So is it going to be something on the App Store that I can buy and subscribe, or is it going to be an offline enterprise app that you sell on a one-to-one basis?
Yeah, it's going to be browser-based to start with. And that's because the Apple Store doesn't deserve it. Just from research, the browser-based apps have been doing really well, and you probably want to use it on browsers first. We're working on a subscription model at this point in time, and we're waiting on a few things and figuring out an approach. I'm doing this completely. I've never done it before, so I don't even know the pricing structure fully yet. We've had a look at it. We've had discussions. We looked at the target audience, and when it's ready, it's going to be people will be able to subscribe. Whether you're a creator, a business owner, or an agency that has multiple clients and you're stuck for ideas, the overall goal is for this to become your creative unblocker. It's not trying to take over copywriters' jobs. It's meant to optimize copywriters who go, it's writing time. I have nothing. Website, ideas, bang. 9 of those aren't great because, AI is still not perfect, but that 10th one I can play with. And there's a module we have where you expand on ideas and go for further, because that's what people do on ChatGPT anyway. We made it so simple that you never put in a prompt at all. You just press buttons and it gets you what you need.
Sounds incredible.
Ollie, what's next for you? What's sort of your 5-year kind of plan? What's from a brand perspective? Do you have any sort of aspirations or
goals?
Yeah.
I think I need to talk to you three about that, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm, yeah, I'm obviously deep in the in the family environment at the moment, and just putting one foot in front of the other. But yeah, you're opening up my world, that's for sure. And I think, look, I think it's important, because I think that this is becoming more and more personalised, and that's the way that the whole world's going. That's the way the whole media is going. And who knows? There's traditional formats such as radio, television, newspapers, where they're going to be in the next 5 or 10 years.
Mm. You do quite a lot of emceeing, Ollie,
Yeah.
outside of your radio life, and I guess when you're talking with potential clients, have they chosen you because of they know you're a good MC, or have they chosen you because of your public profile? What's the sort of the decision making process for them choosing Oliver Peterson?
It's a good question, Ollie. I think it's probably there's a few reasons to it. One would be the profile I have here through 6PR and who I am, but also I think I'm really good at being your MC. So I do it for the Fremantle Football Club. I do lots of cricket jobs. I do lots of association jobs, company jobs, and I actually really enjoy it. Like, I had a great opportunity recently to sit down on stage for half an hour and interview Shane Jacobson.
Oh, wow.
Which was really cool. And he's a big car buff, which he was telling some cracker stories. So the format that I obviously have here, and what my day job is, interviews are 4 to 6 minutes, but getting the opportunity to sit on stage, Chatham House rules, the opportunity to tell some stories with some really interesting guests. Last year, I had an opportunity to do a sit down with the former Premier Colin Barnett, the chief brewer of Gage Roads and the builder of Optus Stadium, to just tell the story of the construction of our great stadium. And the insight they gave us was phenomenal. And the phone calls that were made when James Packer was the boss of Crown to make sure this was happening or that was happening, that sort of insight's really good. So getting those opportunities to be able to MC somebody's awards night, or host a business breakfast, that can obviously look sometimes as a bit of a chore to some people, but I'm interested in their stories. I'm interested in hearing their what makes them tick. So I love that. So through the opportunities, people will come knocking just via the radio station or come to me directly. I'm listed with a few different speaking and management agencies around Perth who pass on some gigs. But I think the best way to be able to do it is once you've done it, then you get asked back, and then other people see you in the room and they ask you back. I do a bit of auctioneering as well, and I have a lot of fun with that, particularly for a bunch of charities and raffle opportunities at awards nights, or if you're trying to raise a bit of money, I'm happy to lend my time and expertise to that, because it's actually I actually find it really good fun.
Yeah. I pressure that. I mean, we obviously saw that the weekend just gone. We did the Blue Delicious Ball with Malcolm Day, which is obviously is in his 20th year, and Renovation Capital put up an auction item, and I saw Tim Gossage on stage, and man, he was sweating because he had to really work the crowd. I mean, it's interesting. I've been there many years in a row, and this year in particular, it seemed that there wasn't that much competitive bidding happening, as when you get that sort of with male testosterone going, and I'm going to beat you kind of thing, and the numbers start to rise pretty quickly, but it didn't seem to quite take off. And so watching the skill of a good auctioneer in a social environment like that with 1,200 people looking at you, I was very, very, very impressed. And he was certainly earning his time and money. Whether he did it for free or not, I'm not sure, but the sweat was literally running off his brow. And so if you're doing that and you're doing it for charity, good on you. Because it's I wouldn't have the balls to get up on stage, and I think I'd probably choke if I got up there myself.
How do you both go with nerves? Do you get them still, or does that sort of pass by the more you do this kind of stuff in the public eye? Do they still get you ever?
I'll go first. Nah, no nerves, all good.
Yeah.
It's fine whether I'm sitting in the studio not looking at anyone, or I'm in a room of a couple of thousand people. You don't it's second nature now. That's the gig.
But when you don't have somebody on talkback, a caller on the line, and you're obviously talking just to the mic, and you're having to sort of fill that space. So you're having to verbalize quite quickly. You're obviously having to think quite quickly on the top of your mind, but you're not having that sort of feedback. I mean, how long did it take you to sort of get that skill? Because I've tried to do it myself,
Yeah.
talk to camera to record a piece, and it's horrible. Like it's a train wreck.
I reckon. So when I first started doing the job, and I'm obviously on air for 3 hours from 3 till 6, I was in bed asleep at 6:30 p.m. I was absolutely exhausted. And I know people think, mate, you work 3 hours a day. I mean, I don't shut down. I'm messaging my producers at all hours of the day, and I annoy them, but that's the nature of the job. If the phone rings at 10 o'clock at night with a story, fantastic. If it's a message at 1 o'clock, fantastic. I'm always on. This is not a job, it's a lifestyle. And I think the brain capacity that you require to have, deeply concentrated, focused thought for 3 hours is actually something that you have to train to do. I genuinely believe that it's just through, the fact that, what are we in 7 years, and I've done it a few thousand times now, that I feel confident enough that if I look back up at the board and there's 10 minutes to go before the next ad break, for example, and there's no one calling, fine, I'll just talk. And I've got things to go to or comments to make, or there might be a text message there. And it's a tactic that Steve Mills, my colleague, told me years ago, is all you need is one caller.
Yep.
And once you get one caller and they say something, somebody else goes, oh, hold on, I want to have my say too, because I disagree with that caller. And, and then it's a snowball effect. So absolutely, early days, it was really hard. Not saying it's not hard now. It's a slog. Every day is a slog. You're only as good as your last show. You're only as good as the news agenda of the day or the engagement that you have with your audience that day. And there's some days you walk off going, that was horrible, that's awful, but dust yourself off, go again tomorrow. And it's a grind, it's a slog, but I love it. The best thing about the job is I don't know what I'm going to do every day. That's also the worst thing about the job, because you can't really pre-plan and decide what you're going to do. And during COVID, that was a new world. You were throwing things out every 10 minutes. And the world was changing, particularly in the depths of the early days when I was broadcasting from home via 3 laptops for 7 weeks. And I could see just on, like we are now, the stream, my studio, and people are just ringing non-stop going, what's this going to happen? How's this going to affect me? Am I going to still have a job? Will I get some money? So, it's you can't fake it. You've just got to be real. And if you're yourself and you're real and you back yourself in, then you have a crack.
Can I ask, 6PR, I assume, is live, or it appears to be live, or, might be a very short delay. But, you have a caller ring up. Are they pre-screened at all, or are they literally just, I want to talk about this, and they're put through? And then, if they're a nut job, what happens?
The magic of radio, Oliver. There are, on my show, there's 2 producers, Victoria and Nick, who will answer the call and say, hello, 6PR, what did you want to talk about? Usually it's on the topic that we're talking about. And just a quick, what did you want to say? So it's more for me to then say we have, 3 callers there, for me to know this person agrees, this person disagrees, this person agrees. More for me to go, because I like a bit of a theme, to go yes, no, if I can, if that's possible. So they are pre-screened. If they are to say something they shouldn't, or they drop a word that can't be broadcast, we're on a 7-second delay. So it automatically drops. I'm live. We have to take an ad break to build up that 7-second delay again. And I think, I had a colleague who I won't name who had to drop himself the other day because he said a word he shouldn't have said. So he just pressed the dump button and it never went to air. And then he had to realise he had to take, an ad break to build up the delay again.
Does that happen a lot, the magic button? Do you have to press that a lot?
Oh, I'd say it happens with me once every month, once every 6 weeks.
Yeah, okay, so not
so it's pretty rare. Good thing is I have the magic button. The producers have the magic button. The technical producer has the magic button. So there's 4 magic buttons. So at least 4 sets of ears have to listen to this to dump it. And hopefully none of us are not listening, so it gets through.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And Seb, that nerves question about you, I can't imagine you getting very nervous when you're
6'10".
Yeah, but do you ever get nervous still?
Only if I'm getting asked a question that I don't know how to answer on the spot. I need to have a little bit of time to understand it and gather my thoughts. I don't want to just speak for the sake of speaking. But when it comes to interviews, when I'm interviewing people on the street, I just get into the audience's shoes and just go, what would they be curious about? And those questions instantly come out on the podcast as well. Obviously, I can do the magic button for the entire thing and just bin it. But yeah, when it's like I've spoken to over 2,000 people at once before in person, and it was no big deal because all I'm looking for is attentive listening and nodding of the head from at least one person, and then I'm just talking to that person, and then everybody else doesn't like it, then well, that one person gets value and we're off.
Yeah, okay.
You're I guess, you know, you and I have worked together with a brand, with a home builder brand, and you've helped coach them. And I guess what I sort of, you know, I look at a lot of influencers in general, and there's only a few which seem to be being able to transition from popularity to, I guess, monetization and sort of coaching. And I've sort of seen you, I guess, you know, go about that and kind of find your feet and sort of figure that out. And of course, you know, in that campaign, we had incredible success. We managed to make that home builder the most followed home builder on TikTok in the entire country, probably in the entire world. But how do you, I guess, you know, from the position that you are, you know, which obviously you're very enlightened, you have all this knowledge, you know, you have all this belief and it works, you know, then talking with somebody who is from you know, might be a marketing director in his 50s or 60s, who's just on the completely polar opposite and is obviously didn't grow up with this. How do you, you know, from a sales process or, you know, understanding and education process with that person, how do you go about doing that, Sev?
My strike rate isn't great, but my patience level is high because historically the ones that I've engaged with early on, they've come back to me eventually, or they've gotten onto a platform like TikTok to embrace it because they had to, and they're doing poorly. One other story I had was a client onboarded me. I gave them a strategy that they needed to do, and they said, no, we need to go niche. So I said, I can't help you because that's not my opinion. That's not my professional opinion. 10 months after I left, they decided to do it. So they wasted 10 months. From a sales perspective of how I convince someone, I'm still working on it. And that's actually my biggest kind of pain point right now is finding someone that can help me get that across better than I can, because I'd rather just teach someone. As soon as I get the okay, I'm off with the races. But as soon as they come back to me, and this has happened multiple times, they said, we need you to make it like this. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm the guru here. I'm the guy that's done this multiple times. Yeah. And it's frustrating because I can see the success potential, and I have like the residential builder client as a success story, but people are still hesitant, and I can't figure out why.
Well, I think it's probably, you know, obviously we sell similar products or, you know, digital products or marketing or whatever we might sell here. And, you know, it's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of failure. It's the, you know, but I guess how we explain it to clients is, well, what's the other option? You know, if you don't do it, you're going to stay completely stagnant. You're going to stay where you are. And, you know, it's clearly not working what you're doing at the moment. So, and I guess it's new to everybody, right? It's testing and trialing and seeing these things. And there's no silver bullet out there from a marketing point of view.
My biggest thing for anyone that's still undecided is you're about to have a generational shift into your demographic. And if you don't start early, you're going to compete for the attention of that new generation that's just gone into your demographic. Do you want to plant the seed early and get them before they're ready to purchase? Or do you want to wait like everybody else in your competition to then bid for it in ads and I don't know what else there is? And that's kind of my like final thing that I tell everybody. The ones that get it, then we go into business. The ones that don't see it, then, well, sorry, you're going to have to compete with everybody else.
Yeah, it's sort of like when Facebook, you know, there was the early adopters, right? And, you know, they did really well. And on Facebook, when it first came out, organic, you know, it blew up and everybody was like, this is amazing. You don't spend anything and you got all this attention. And TikTok has almost done a similar thing in a lot of ways, but, you know, it's very satirized. You know, you're paying a lot of saturated, I should say, on Facebook. You're paying fairly decent CPMs, i.e. cost of attention.
Exactly it.
And TikTok at the moment just seems incredibly cheap to reach people. You know, we're we're reaching people for next to nothing. So I do see that as the new era. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the largest growing audience on TikTok at the moment is over 40s, right? It's
Right.
that older demo that's obviously jumping on it because their kids have said, see this, share this. And I'm constantly sharing stuff on TikTok. I was sharing stuff about, I think it might have been Channel 9 actually, sharing all the locations of where people had guns. And of course, there's people out in the outskirts of Perth who are farmers or whatever. It's pretty obvious whose property it is. And like, well, what's more dangerous?
Yeah.
Getting rid of guns or telling everybody where they are. So, sharing that with
found me originally on TikTok. I remember someone emailing me from PWD saying, "Hey, our director found you on TikTok." I was like, and I've shared that story multiple times with people. I'm like, here's case in point. This 39-year-old PWD director found me on TikTok, and here we are. We ended up doing business together.
Yeah, look, and Mike, who works for us and runs our social department, it's exactly how I found him. Exactly. And he just happened to be when we were in Vic Park. He was also in Vic Park, and jumped on. He was the first guy that was doing ManyChat bot messaging. Seemed to be an expert in the space, and he's worked for us ever since. That's been 6 years, and we've done great things together. Well, I guess open Q&A really. Ollie, if you've got anything to ask Sev or vice versa, I think probably good from our point of view. And then
Oliver, I do have a question. How do you come up with your questions?
It's a good question. I have a preconceived idea of what I'm going to ask someone and why I've invited them on, but it's a lot about listening, right? Because what do they say to you to then follow up with your next question? So, I don't like if I've got a big interview, like I had the Prime Minister on last week. I'll really sit down beforehand and think, what am I going to talk to Anthony Albanese about? Because I know I'm going to get him for 5 or 10 minutes. You got to ask him a million questions, but what do the people in Perth want to know about with the Prime Minister today? So, a bit of preparation. Ask some colleagues as well if you've got a big interview. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And, I have an idea of where I want the interview to go, but I can't always get there. Mm-hmm. And then the person you're talking to might not take you there. So you've got to find ways to try and get to where you want to go. But by the same token, it's not about me, it's about them. So, there's a bit to it, Sev. That's a really good question.
And with that, so broaden that a little bit more. How do you come up with the topics for the questions when you're interviewing someone like Albanese?
So great question again. Obviously, whatever the news agenda is there of the day. So I had him last Thursday, 2 days before The Voice. Obviously, he wanted to talk about that. The Israel-Palestine stuff was fairly new, so we wanted to go there. Usually if you get someone like Albanese in Perth, you want to be talking to him about stuff related to Perth, but it just wasn't the occasion. And of course, in my medium being talkback radio, I want the phones to ring. I want people to engage. I want them to say something that then, someone will ring up and say, again, what was that about? That's ridiculous. That's a stupid explanation. I can't believe it. Or couldn't agree with you more. I'm glad, they're fighting for Team Australia. So I'm trying to encourage debate. And I'm pretty open with what people can say until they, cross a certain line. Yeah. And then for you to take that conversation away to dinner tonight when you're like, hey, I heard this on Ollie's show. Can you believe it? Blah, blah, blah. That's kind of the idea, to kind of spark that conversation around the dinner table tonight.
Would you agree that generally the news or the questions are aimed more in a negatively geared way to spark debate? In a way that you have higher success rate in sparking a debate?
Yeah, I think so. I think, in general, we're trying to find out, the truth, I suppose, whatever someone's version of the truth is. And unfortunately, in the news business, regardless if it's radio, TV, online, papers, it's, the negative news sells, doesn't it? That, this person was up to that, or the government's, having to spend another $1 billion on this rail project or whatnot. So, absolutely. I think traditional forms of like talkback radio thrives on controversy. I don't think it's always necessarily negativity, but it absolutely gets into that realm. I think you're looking for issues that resonate with people. And that's why, we call the show Perth Live. Because there's not many local drive shows in Perth. They're syndicating shows from the eastern states, which are 3 hours old. And, I want it to be something that can affect you, if you're living in the eastern suburbs of Perth, or you're living in the southern suburbs of Perth, or the northern suburbs of Perth, really. I want to hear your local issues that, might spark a conversation that someone goes, oh yeah, that happened to me too.
Do you think that, sorry, one more question. Do you think that your 3 hours on air will be far less exhausting if majority of that news or debates or topics were more positive?
Possibly. Yeah. I haven't thought about it like that, Sev, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Thank you. Good question.
Sev, you got any? Sorry, Ollie, have you got anything you'd want to ask Sev?
Yeah. So in terms of where you think, I know you said that before, like you see LinkedIn as being sort of the future and YouTube being all the future. Do you see any of these social media sites dropping off altogether? They're just done and dusted. Like you go back, 15, 20 years ago, everyone had a MySpace account. Now that doesn't even exist.
I still do.
He's got no friends on there.
It's just me and Tom. We're the only two left.
The key will be actually to do with AI. And my prediction will be that the businesses who deploy more AI content will be flagged more, and people will get over it quicker than they did with ads. The platforms that have too many ads and AI-generated content, and I'm talking about completely AI-generated content, will be the first to suffer. I know TikTok's already got a little thing that you have to say that you generated it with AI. Otherwise, you get flagged and you can be banned. I've also noticed that the difference between TikTok algorithm and Instagram algorithm has changed slightly. I'm actually more interested in the things I see in my Reels kind of scroll through procrastination session than I do on TikTok. And I think TikTok's really starting to get more in an ad-heavy product showcase kind of way. And in saying that, there's a recent report that the algorithm in TikTok's looking for more sarcastic content. AI can't really do sarcasm, and hence why they're maybe saying that. But because I'm seeing that, I'm predicting that there's going to be a big shift to, one, authenticity, which means more jobs for people like me because I'm authentic. I am the human being in the creative. Now it will just depend on which platforms will jump on that first and most. So that's really the big variable we'll see. LinkedIn's already doing it. We don't really see that much AI content there. And YouTube's really they've got AI only accounts, but you have to say that it's an AI only account or people figure it out. And then if they want to consume it, they want to consume it.
Is there anything after video, Sev? Like that's like videos, the driving content at the moment. We've moved on from images. Is there anything after video?
I mean, obviously there's augmented reality with the new glasses coming out, with the cameras that scan what's in front of you. Once that starts to get perfected a little bit more, we'll have a heads-up display of everything we need to see, blah, 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 where we're going or whatever. But then my big prediction for AI voice will be when Siri is starting to integrate AI, you'll be able to go, hey, I want this, and it will search for who is the most consistent on their website, who has the most genuine reviews, and who is the most consistent with their content online. So it's not what's next, it's everything will be everything, and AI will force businesses to do that more so. Because when I go, hey, well, where can I go in Fremantle, and it says Little Creatures, every other business in that region will want to go, how did Little Creatures get the first preference?
Yeah.
And I already know the answer because I've done my research and I've already said it. Google reviews, good website, and lots of content. That's what's next in terms of like...
We can do good websites, by the way, here at PWD.
Which is SEO, of course. Shameless plug. I saw something recently about an AI influencer, which was a very attractive woman. But I must say the images looked pretty darn good, pretty legitimate. That this AI influencer with automatic posting and new content being shared daily is grossing $3.6 million US.
Wow.
And this is just a fledgling account that was launched literally a couple months ago. And I just think that that's just nuts that, you know, somebody can obviously make this avatar, push it, put it online, and then start collecting $3.6 million US on autopilot. It just blew my mind.
How is it generating it though? Is it through like what is it selling?
No, it's very similar to an Instagram model, sharing photos.
Like it's got an AI OnlyFans account.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there you go.
I didn't want to say OnlyFans, but we said, yeah, that was okay. I figured that people can connect the dots. But yeah, it's an AI OnlyFans. So it's just mind-boggling that that's how people are starting to generate, cash online. So, gentlemen, thank you for your time. We've just crossed over the 1 hour mark, so appreciate you guys jumping on. We didn't get any controversial questions, so I haven't read them out. And we'll post this online. And we have got another speaker, which I'm trying to line up, which is a very well-known and very, very funny personality. But he's from an older demographic, but he has very much mastered TikTok and YouTube, and Netflix actually did a TV show on him not so long ago, which I think is about to go live on Netflix Australia, if you can figure out who that is. But that will be our next guest. So hopefully we can have one of you involved in that interview, because he's a bit of a character. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for your time, guys.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Yes.
Have a great rest of the day.
There you go.
See you guys. See you all.
See ya.